Well, well. This was definitely a surprise to be sure, but a welcome one. So I just got back from seeing Marvel Studios' Thunderbolts, which, with the exception of Deadpool and Wolverine and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, this is the first legitimate Marvel Studios movie that I have seen in a theater since since forever. Deadpool and Wolverine is more of a Ryan Reynolds project, and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 was more of a James Gunn project. And I do think, this feels a lot more like the director, Jake, I think Schreier, his name is. This definitely feels something he would do. Now, you're probably seeing in the title, this says spoilers, because unfortunately, there is really no way to talk about this movie without getting into spoilers, or at least, yeah. So, before I go any further with this, let me just give you my rating of the movie. I'm going to give this is, in terms of regular movie, like regular score, this is easily like a high 6, mid-tier 7. It's extraordinarily good, though sometimes there's a couple lows here and there, mainly due to some character work and some really weird lines of dialogue, as well as some third act Marvel shit. But go see it. This is well worth your time, well worth your money. It's highly entertaining, very easily one of the more character-driven studies that I've seen Marvel do in quite some time. So go see it. I highly recommend it. It's well worth a view. Now let's get into spoilers, because that's really the only way to talk about this fucking movie. So let's just get the worst kept secret out of the way. Taskmaster is in this movie for a grand total of 3 minutes. Olga Kurylenko is on screen, I shit you not, for a grand total of 5 seconds. The mask peels back, you see her face, she says, "I'm not here for you," closes back up, and then she gets shot in the face by Ghost. So if you were following the marketing, then yeah, her character is, they just keep doing Taskmaster dirty, man. There has not been a single good interpretation, live action, of Taskmaster. And the fact that she dies so damn quickly is just so fucking funny. Frustrating, but funny. And there's also a lot of other frustrating parts of this movie, including the end credits scene, which we will get to. But overall, what is it that this movie does well? Well, character interactions. This movie has a really good cast. It has David Harbour, Wyatt Russell, Hannah, and as well as Florence Pugh, and Sebastian Stan, as well as Lewis Pullman, which we will get to. And the story follows that it's a group of, operatives working for Julie Louis-Dreyfus's character, Val, as they are basically sent to try and kill each other and die, but are luckily able to escape. And they have to work together to essentially figure out the secret behind Lewis Pullman, Bob's character, who we later find out is the Sentry and the Void. A lot of the character work here is really, really good. We get a little more in-depth backstory into Yelena. We get some character backstory for Wyatt Russell's character. And that is one of the downsides of this movie. As great as Ghost, damn, I just see Wyatt Russell, but, and Florence Pugh. Some characters are more important than others. This is definitely still a Florence Pugh movie, but not enough emphasis was put on this is very much a Sentry movie. A lot of this movie is putting him at the forefront, which I will just get this out of the way right now. Lewis Pullman steals this movie. He captures Sentry, or at least the most appropriate version of the Sentry that we can put on screen that you can get. As much as I wish we could have seen Steven Yen's version. I'm glad that he wasn't able to do this, because this really does feel more like something Lewis Pullman could pull off, because when you see him switch between Sentry and the Void, it's very much like you see it in his eyes. You see it. He does so well. And plus he does the whole dying, coming back to life, dying, coming back to life really, really well. And even the third act, when they go into, and when they literally go into the void, he captures this sense of real trauma and, very much mental anguish, which this movie actually does pretty well for the most part. The core of this movie is depression and, a feeling of emptiness and loss. In fact, this is probably one of the best movies I've seen handle mental, actual depression and mental anguish in a while. It doesn't do it perfectly. There are some points in the movie where it's like, oh my fucking God, I get it. It's like, we're here for you. It's like, it feels like a void. There's a lot of on the nose dialogue. And this movie, unfortunately, suffers from the and problem. What do I mean by the and problem? Well, in some movies, when you see these credits, if there's an ampersand, that means they work together. If there's the word and, then that usually means it was worked separately on from different people, not collaborating. And there are moments where the dialogue is very rich in nature and very detailed. And then there are points where it just doesn't, and it's like you can clearly tell that this was written by two separate people. As hard as they try to make it mesh together, it never quite interlocks. There's a couple threads here and there that just don't intertwine together, and that's unfortunate. But there's a lot of good that works. Sebastian Stan does a pretty good job, though. It does feel like he was just tired. For God's sakes, he's been busy the last 2-3 years. So he does kind of sleepwalk his way through this movie. But David Harbour, Florence Pugh, they just fucking nail their characters. David Harbour is really the funniest character in this movie. And, the witty books, and he playing the embarrassing dad, trying to relate to his teenage daughter. That's the archetype he plays. He does a really good job. And Julia Louis-Dreyfus just plays a bitch. Val is a fucking bitch. And she does it really well, and and that's the thing. There are moments where, the Sentry touches their hand, touches a character's hand, or gets near them, and we're able to go inside their mind and see some past traumatic event. And those, they do that with 4 or 5 characters, and it really works. But they never stay in it long enough for it to really be as impactful as it could have been. Not until the very end, but even then, that's all the Sentry stuff. Like the part where Bob is beating up the Void, and it's basically him giving into his depression, and then everyone hugs him and pulls him out. And, of course he forgets. In the comics, Bob, Sentry, and the Void are all, they're basically this version is a lot like what Moon Knight kind of is, but really fully realized. It's a multiple personality disorder and short-term memory loss. And that does, as much as comic accurate as that is, it does lead to frustrating moments where you're just like, are you fucking kidding me? You literally just went through it. How the fuck do you forget? There are moments in the third act where the VFX gets a little shoddy. There's a wonder they try to do, and it's really good, but there are moments where it's like, damn, a lot of this movie was really practical, and now it's it's fucking CG. But there are moments in the third act, as much as it's a little messy, not reshoot level messy, but it's they couldn't figure out if they wanted to go full devastation, fighting a bunch of minions or shit, or a very personal and, very small scale, character third act. And, they try to juggle it a little bit. It works for the most part, but it gets messy. And one thing I actually was kind of shocked by, and this is something I personally love, you actually see the characters save people. they care about collateral damage. It's actually really nice to see. I actually had forgotten, you know, so many heroes, like superhero movies, have focused on, stopping the big picture, the big bad. I can't even remember the last time I saw a superhero movie where they actually just save random civilians. Like that was my big problem with Superman Returns, is that it was all that. But I can't believe we actually get to see superheroes helping the common man. Like it does, and that's the thing. It doesn't last long. It lasts probably 3 minutes, and it ends really abruptly, but like for a good reason. Basically, the Red Guardian saves this girl, and it's a beautiful moment, really, really beautiful. And then she just dies like that. Well, dies. She gets turned into a shadowy void, but it's really good. You're like, oh man, we spent all this time. So that's that. But it's nice to actually see superheroes actually do superhero shit, saving people rather than just fighting monsters or big armies. It's the little things. They actually do focus on collateral damage. And overall, I guess some of the biggest downsides is that as great as the character work is, it never really goes further. It almost gets there. Bucky's a senator. They do a little bit with that, and it's like, oh, that's so interesting, and then they just kind of don't. Or like Wyatt Russell as Junior Varsity Captain America. Oh, he has a bunch of stuff with his family. Never go. Don't go too far with it. Or Red Guardian feeling sad about losing his purpose. Never too much with it. The only two characters that they actually fully commit to is Yelena, Florence Pugh's character, and Lewis Pullman's Sentry. That's really the only two characters they fully commit to those ideas, and it does lead to a rather heartfelt moment towards the end. It works. It really works. And overall, it's not, like I said, it's not a perfect movie. It's not. It's a really good movie, but unfortunately, it's tied up in the Marvel formula and the Marvel schlock that it's like they were almost able to go all the way with certain ideas, but they just had to pull back a little bit, just enough, to try and keep all that superhero shit in there. In terms of what Marvel has released in the last couple of years, this is definitely one of the much better Marvel projects. I cannot stress this enough. As much as I'm kind of bitching and moaning because of what I believed it could be, for what we got, this is really good. This is easily one of Marvel's better projects. And I think that's because the director actually had some time to, focus on this movie without oversight, because they were too busy trying to redo Daredevil and try to fix Captain America Brave New World. So, this is very much a auteur-driven movie. Sure, it's not perfect by any means, but it certainly beats a lot of the shit they've done in the last couple of years. And what's odd is that this kind of does Suicide Squad better than, the Studio Squad released the Ayer cut. Sorry, I had to say it. I want that version. And, James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, I still think is a phenomenal movie, but it feels more like a Dirty Dozen rather than just a bunch of, like villains coming together. And this does kind of have that whole villains forcibly working together. Apples and oranges. Compare and contrast, it's whatever. Overall, I had fun with it. There's not a single bad performance. Maybe on the poor side with Sebastian Stan, because it does feel like he is tired of having to play this role for 15 years now. But overall, everyone delivers. The script is, for the most part, solid. The direction is impeccable. And Lewis Pullman steals the fucking show. However, the movie's biggest sin is its end credit scene. The second one, not the first one. The first one's funny. But the second end credit scene, which I learned was shot probably a couple weeks ago. So it's I'm just gonna come out and say it. I'm not gonna try and sugarcoat it. It spoils the ending of Fantastic Four. It spoils the ending. Basically, the new Avengers, which by the way, yeah, that was what the asterisk was. It's the new Avengers. The new Avengers are like, oh, there's something in space, and then then they look at the screen and a ship's coming from another dimension, and it turns and you see a big four, and I got really excited until I realized, wait a minute, the Fantastic Four are from another universe. And the only reason they would be there is to escape a massive planetary threat. And so, yeah, you feel that excitement for like a second until you actually think about it and realize the Fantastic Four movie ends with them fucking failing. There's literally no other way to look about it, Galactus destroys worlds. And if you can't really show how evil and how devastating he is without actually seeing him destroy a planet, it's something that we care about, to that way you can make him a big bad villain. I mean, that's the whole thing. Galactus is that big bad villain, that fucking evil son of a bitch that we need to fear. So yeah, this movie spoils Marvel's probably most anticipated movie of the year. And I think that fucking hurts. And that's the thing, that sure, it's not explicitly stated, but come on. Anyone with a brain can piece together the movie just from the trailers alone, and then from this end credits scene, we basically know what happens. They fail. And that is the biggest sin of this movie, basically spoiling Marvel's most anticipated movie this year. So yeah, going back forward, this is my Thunderbolts review. It's a really good movie, but I don't recommend sticking for the end credits scene. Don't. Oh wait, I forgot this is a spoiler review, so it doesn't fucking matter anyway. Oh god, it's definitely among the better movies Marvel's done, and honestly, the whole Misfit formula seems to be working for them. They've made 5 movies about a bunch of Misfit teams. They've made Guardians of the Galaxy, well, like 1 through 3, and then they have this one, and even then, Deadpool and Wolverine still technically counts as one as well, because they even form their own team of Misfits. So overall, I think it's good. I think it's really good. Not great by any means, but really, really good. And I'm really hoping that this is a return to form for Marvel, because God knows they need a good movie on their hands, and this is one of them. Anywho, if you've seen this movie, let me know what you think. Yeah, Thunderbolts is good.